Good morning, everyone. It is a blustery is the word I'm looking for, Monday here in Central Indiana on December 18th. It is a Christmas time Mental Health Monday, which is a whole reason to have Mental Health Monday here. I'm Mayor Chris Jenson, Noblesville, Indiana. Welcome to everyone who watches us from all over the world. I am joined once again by my good friend, somebody who has graciously given her time, talents, and treasure to this cause, Kristen Boice, the owner of Pathways to Healing Counseling. Good morning and Merry Christmas, Kristen.
Good morning, Mayor Jenson. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. We're happy that anybody that can join us today is here or watching the replay. As we know, the holidays are filled with so many different emotions.
I was just over in Ohio this past weekend. That's where Julie Jenson's family is from. And I was talking to some of my sister-in-laws who actually they tune into Mental Health Monday all the way from over in Central Ohio, which I always appreciate. But their parents of young kids like we are. And we're talking about the stresses. And they made a comment of like, oh, what a great time of year to have Mental Health Monday. I was like, yep, it's always a great time of year, in my opinion, to have a Mental Health Monday, but certainly this time of year during the stresses of the holiday season. So we hope that you find value in this conversation today. As you can imagine, we're going to tackle the holiday stress, the worries of the holiday, the emotions of the holiday, the grief of the holiday. So much of us think of Christmas time as being a happy time, but for a lot of folks, it's not a happy time. So we're going to talk through all those things today. As always, if you have any questions or comments as we go along, or just want to say hi, feel free to type that in the chat. Always happy to try to answer questions on the fly or get back to you at a later date as we go along here. But before we do anything, we always start with a breathing exercise called square breathing that I will let Kristen walk us through.
And during the holidays, when you feel that stress or you don't have enough to give or you feel not in the holiday spirit, this is the number one thing I want you to try to do often. So maybe every hour, you're going to take 4 to 5 breaths. You're going to first start with your feet on the floor. So we're centering the body. We're not in the past and worrying about what we don't have and what we didn't do and maybe how we messed up or we don't feel enough or we're not in the future, anxious about how things are going to be received or expectations. We're right here, right now. So it helps ground us into the present moment. So we feel our feet on the floor. We're going to take a big, deep inhale through our nose. We're going to hold for 4. And then we're going to slowly take a nice long exhale out our mouth, like we're cooling a cookie. If you're working with kids, cooling soup. So we want the exhale to be longer than the inhale, but a big, deep belly breath. So let's do this together, 2 breaths. So big, deep inhale through your nose. Hold if you can. And release slowly out your mouth. You might feel a difference in your body. You might feel your shoulders drop. You can feel the weightlessness more maybe in your body, or maybe you feel more heavy in your body. Just allow whatever's there to be there. Let's take one more deep breath. Big, deep inhale through your nose. And a slow exhale out your mouth. If you need a stretch, if you need to, move around at all, let your body do what it needs to do to recenter, calm, and rejuvenate for the present moment.
I would say breathing seems so simple, yet it's something that we oftentimes forget to do, especially when we are in a panicky moment. The fight, what is it, Kristen?
Fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Fawn is the people-pleasing response.
Yes, we oftentimes forget to breathe through those moments. It's a great thing to be able to do, teach yourself how to do, and then model for your kids. I always talk about that. I try to make sure that the Jenson kids know how to breathe, and they've gotten good to even remind each other that, the older ones remind the 2-year-old sometimes when she's losing her ever-loving mind that we need to breathe and take a deep breath. So it doesn't always work, but at least we're trying at our house to breathe through it. So, so important. All right, let's talk about the holidays. Again, it was actually just snowing a little bit earlier today here in Noblesville, which is, I guess, exciting if you like that sort of stuff. But, not everyone does. And Christmas is 1 week from today. So you could be in the stressful moment of gift buying and purchasing, but there are so many emotions that come this holiday season. It's darker outside. It's colder outside. There are family dynamics always at play. So I'm not even sure where you want to start on that tree of emotions, Kristen. but I'll let you kind of dive in, and then I will probably pepper in with my thoughts and commentary along the way. So let's talk about the holidays and the feelings around it.
The first thing I want to do is normalize that many people have lots of different emotions. Maybe you've suffered a loss, maybe a breakup, maybe you've lost a job, maybe you're going through separation or divorce, or maybe someone is ill with cancer or any other type of illness. And there's many different associations with that of grief, of feeling sad. Maybe you've got some anger, maybe some disgust are coming up, and maybe you have a hard time accessing joy, or maybe you feel guilty for having any joy. And I just want to say it's okay not to be okay. A lot of times we don't give people permission to actually feel what they're feeling. We try to talk them out of it. We try to fix it. We try to save them. We try to rescue it. We try to offer advice. We try to offer recommendations. And what most people want is someone just to acknowledge the pain or the emotions that they're having by saying, that makes sense that you feel really sad because this is the first Christmas you're going to not have your mom, or you're not going to have your partner or your dad or whoever the loss may be, or your grandmother. And so when we can say that makes sense, because that's a deeper form of empathy that we can offer another person. And statistically, this is backed up. 64% of people that might have had some anxiety, depression, maybe some PTSD are saying the holidays are extra hard for them. And this is something we don't talk about, because we talk about the happy moments and the joy. While that is possible for a lot of us, it's not possible, because we feel the heaviness in our bodies of the loss, of the grief, of the loneliness. Many people feel alone during the holidays. And if we can start acknowledging what actually people feel and be real about it, we can actually move it up and out of the body. And we might get some relief when we are empathically witnessed by another person. And when someone says, how are you feeling? I know this is maybe a hard year because you just got a diagnosis, or you're going through a separation or a breakup, or you just lost your job. How are you feeling? And if someone says, I don't want to talk about it, you can say, I totally get that. Just know if you need to talk, I'm here. Or you say something like, that makes sense, because this is a heavy season and many people think they should be happy, or I should just move on and get over it, or they feel like I'm being a burden to other people. When you can go, you're not a burden. I want to hear you. I want to hear how you're really feeling. And that makes sense. You feel really sad right now, as this is, you're navigating this loss. What a great gift you can give somebody else. And not only that, if we can do that for ourselves and offer compassion for ourselves, instead of making us feel like something's wrong with me, that I don't feel happy, or something's wrong with me, that I think I should be over it by now, we can say, you know what? It's okay. I'm having a hard time. It's okay for me to cry. And actually, therapeutically, we know if we can let the sadness out, that we can move it. It's like a wave that comes in and out of the body, and we can ride that wave. We're actually going to relieve that burden of feeling that heaviness inside the body. Maybe you're feeling it in your feet, your chest, your shoulders, your neck, behind your head. We can actually help the body feel better and us unburden ourselves.
Well, so I want to freeze at that moment for a minute and come at this from the perspective of the happy person. So say you are the happy warrior this time of year, that you love everything about Christmas. What is there not to love? The cold weather, that, you name it. You love everything. You cannot comprehend why someone would not love to, at your level, the holiday season. Can you maybe talk about maybe some do's and don'ts? Because again, I think that's a critical role to play, and it's awesome that you're happy. But can you talk a little bit about do's and don'ts on how to maybe approach those people who aren't maybe as happy? Because I think that is a hard spot for some people to be in.
It is. And I want to say, that's fantastic. I
Awesome.
love it. I'm like,
Yeah.
be with the joy, embrace it. And I think that can be helpful to some people. I think when we can say, I can be happy and it's okay for someone else to be sad and I can tolerate it, the two truths can be true. It's when we can't tolerate that someone else feels sad and we want them to be happy. So we're trying to talk them out of it. Like, well, what do you have to be grateful for? I love gratitude, and I'm a big fan of gratitude. After maybe we've listened to somebody in their pain, and then maybe we can get to gratitude. So if we're trying to talk someone out of how they're feeling, like, oh, it's not that bad. Oh, you should hear this other person that, just was worse off, or let me just, tell you all the wonderful things about Christmas and why you should be happy. We're going to actually do a disservice, and you're going to create disconnection, which is not what you want. You want connection. Most of us are looking to feel seen, heard, and understood. So you can certainly have your joy and welcome it in. And let's see if we can hold space for someone else's maybe opposite feelings that you might not identify or feel. And you can tolerate and accept that they can have their feelings and you can have yours. That's a game changer in life. If we can get to that two truths concept, I can have my feelings and you can have yours, and both are valid and both can be true, and we can have space and room for both. It's going to change your life because you're going to be able to tolerate other people's emotions.
Yeah, I will say that that's one of the things I probably struggle with the most. I'm a fixer, especially like I think about my marriage. I'm always one like, why are you upset? Yesterday, you're mad that the dog pooped on the floor. Like, why are we so upset about this? No one died. But I really have tried to work on the two truths component. That I'm not. What is it to me to tell someone how, or tell Julie Jenson how she should feel about something specifically? They're entitled to their feelings. And I need to work on myself accepting those feelings and maybe giving just the grace and space to allow those feelings to process through.
Yes. And I am notorious to do this with my kids because I want them to feel better. I don't want them to feel shame, that they're not good enough, or I don't want them to feel like there's something wrong with them. So I can go towards that when I want them to feel better. And I can be like, well, you are so gifted at XYZ. But instead, what they want, my kids will notoriously tell me, I don't want you to fix it. I just want you to listen. And during the holidays, if someone's sad, you could say, do you want to talk about it? And if they say no, respect that. If they do want to talk about it, say, do you want me to listen? Or are you looking for feedback or advice? This is a great cue. If I could write it on a note card.
Not everyone's looking for feedback and advice.
Not everybody's looking. Most people, I would say 99% of the time, they don't want your feedback or what you did or what worked for you or, your solution to their problem. They just want you to hear them and acknowledge their pain. This is so hard to do. Sounds great in theory, but asking, do you just want me to listen, or do you want feedback or any input? And if they say, yeah, no, then you've got to zip it. And this is where you have to do your deep breaths, because you're like, well, if you'd only, talk about it, if you'd only go talk to somebody, if you'd only XYZ, you'd feel better. We have the solution to their problem, but they don't really want that. They just want to process it.
Yeah, they're about ready to tell you what if only you would do something,
Exactly.
And yeah, Bonnie, thanks for that shout out. The giving grace and space. Somebody taught me that not too long ago. And I think it's a great this time of year. Some grace and some space. I love it. All right, let's talk a little bit from the perspective of the sad person. So we have the annoying elves all around us. You're not a Buddy the Elf. Maybe you've lost. Let's talk about grief first of all. That is a huge component this holiday season. But then touch on some other feelings. If you are just feeling down, how do you approach the holidays if you are that person that's really struggling?
Yeah. Here's the first thing I want to say is it's okay to not be okay. I've said that. I could say that a million times. It's okay to have your feelings, and it's important that you're acknowledging what you feel, because we think, well, I shouldn't feel this way. I should just be happy. And that's shaming yourselves. We should all over ourselves instead of offering ourselves that grace and space to say, I love Bonnie's grace and space phrasing, to be able to offer ourselves that compassion and acknowledge that, yes, I am probably not going to be joyful. What I tell clients to say when they're having grief is I give them all the permission slips to give the forewarning ahead of time. So I'll say something like, hey, I really want to come to Christmas. I really love you and I want to be with you. And that day, that morning, I might not feel up to it. So I might not be able to come. I might just need to just take a pass. So I just want to give you the heads up. Now, some people can get upset by that. Some people can be respectful of that. It's up to you to respect your own needs and to know yourself. And I say with when we say grace and grief, grace is imperative, because grief just won't let you do things sometimes that you normally do. It changes us. And we don't talk about how it changes us. It changes a lot of how we feel, and how we associate things, especially holidays, can be very activating for many of us because the memories are associated with the holidays, especially that first year we're grieving and subsequent years too. I don't want to discount those. Those are the hardest because it's new. We might be at without our loved one. And so giving the permission slips to say no, to be realistic in your expectations that it's not going to be the same, even though we long for the nostalgia and for things to be the same. And there's a lot of grief with things changing. And when we can take it 1 minute at a time and check in with our emotional well-being and say, okay, how am I feeling right now? Do I have the capacity to go and chit chat with everybody? Maybe you don't, and that's okay. Maybe you just need to be by yourself. I know some people are going through a divorce or a breakup. Maybe they want to volunteer in a soup kitchen, to reframe what the holiday means, to give back, to get outside of their pain, to see other people and what they might be going through, to keep a gratitude journal. The most important thing, though, is to not bypass the emotions, not talk yourself out of it. Maybe you need to beef up the therapy, maybe going to a support group, and knowing that you're not alone. There's a grief share group in many local churches that is fantastic. And to listen to podcasts or read books. It's Okay Not to Be Okay is a great grief book. And to know that the holidays are hard and to give yourself a lot of grace and space.
Yeah, and I think one of the things I'm taking away from 2023 personally on my personal journey is that whole concept of two things can be true. And I think about the holidays being a very defining moment around that. It's okay to be sad about maybe changing traditions in your life, that things don't look the same as maybe when you grew up as a kid, but also be excited about new opportunities and a new way of looking at the holiday. This is probably a bad example, but I always think about Noblesville, Indiana, of which I'm absolutely obsessed with. A city rooted in tradition. Kristen, you know that, rooted in tradition. And this year we tried something new. We had a nighttime Christmas parade in Noblesville. And I think there was some angst about a new thing happening. Some folks wanted to go back to when the Christmas parade was when they were growing up. But then also we had a lot of folks that were incredibly excited about a new tradition starting, and it ended up being a really exciting thing. So again, kind of maybe a bad example, but again, two things can be true. You can long for those days, but also be excited about maybe what's ahead of you or maybe what's new in front of you this holiday season.
I love how you frame that, because you also, I think there's important with the two truths can be true concept that we want to talk about is your capacity to tolerate the discomfort of the change. You have a higher capacity to tolerate the discomfort of a change and take the feedback that your truth, that makes sense. You're grieving over the tradition. You can hold space for that grief or that, longing for that tradition. And at the same time, to your point, you're holding space for the new possibilities. That takes a lot of self-work to be able to do both, and a lot of self-awareness. And I think this is a key concept when we're looking at the holidays and expectations and this fantasy of everything's going to be fantastic and we're all going to, sing by the fire, kumbaya, when we can go, you know what? I'm going to accept it as it is. I'm going to accept how anybody comes forward and let them be however they are, and that I'm going to tolerate that. It changes the game because we no longer hold on to this idea of this perfect holiday, and we can go, you know what? I'm going to be present. I'm going to just welcome whatever is in the moment. That takes a lot of self-regulation. And I'm not going to drink myself and numb it because that's a depressant. I see a lot of uptake in alcohol and substance use. And what ends up happening is you feel worse. You say things, you do things that you regret. You have a shame around it. And I just want to say that makes sense because you're trying to comfort yourself with all of the pain you're feeling, the loneliness. And when we can replace that with something else, and it might be you go on a nature walk. It might be you spend more time with your pet. You might reach out to a friend and check in. You might write someone a letter and tell them how much they mean to you. Things that really matter, that you're making a difference and you have some purpose, can transform that feeling of loneliness. And it doesn't mean it's not going to be there. It's going to be there, and we're welcoming in some other possibilities.
Yep.
We're not extinguishing it. When we try to extinguish things, it just pushes them back down into the body and makes them bigger.
Yep. I love that. Before I want to, I take a quick little Mental Health Monday timeout because Fulton Raz, I don't know you, but I appreciate you asking, what's my favorite Christmas cookie or Christmas candy? I've not been asked this before. I will say, Fulton, I actually had some Buckeyes this weekend over in Ohio, which is the peanut butter balls with chocolate on the outside. Delicious. I will also say there's these Kringles from Wisconsin that somebody sent my office not too long ago, and that was probably the best Christmas cookie dessert I actually had. So those are my two. Kristen, do you want to chime in real quick on your favorite Christmas cookie or candy?
If you all remember Roslyn Bakery,
Oh yeah,
I love their Santa cookie. Now
yeah.
they don't make them anymore, but I love their Santa cookie. It was so good. So
And
that's
two
my
two
favorite.
things can be true, so you can move on to your new thing while remembering the past.
That's right. And I just want to acknowledge, is it Fulton? I don't
Yeah,
have my glasses on.
yeah,
That what they're offering us right now is a great example of how to inject more deeper conversation,
yeah,
even though it's about your favorite cookie, into the holidays. So I love printing off questions, playing a game about what's your favorite Christmas memory, what was your hardest Christmas, what was your favorite cookie, what's your favorite food, what's your favorite gift you ever got, what's your favorite gift you ever gave. These are awesome family questions to start asking, and change. You're welcoming all emotions to the table. So thank you for asking that
yeah.
question. I think that was a great example to model. This is another idea I love to integrate into the family holidays.
Fulton, you didn't even know what you were doing with that, but thank you for asking that question. I love it. I got to say, even questions like that. Julie Jenson and I are working through a marriage book right now, and one of the exercises was like pick 20 questions of a list of 60 and sit down for an hour and go. And they were like, a lot of them were like basic questions. We've been married, will be 10 years. Ooh, Bonnie's made a big batch of Buckeyes. Thank you. It'll be 10 years in March, but even some of the basic questions we asked each other, it was like insightful to me, even after 10 years of marriage, to sit down and just with just your spouse one evening going over these questions. So anyways, great
Those are
questions.
on Amazon, by the way. Like if you're
Yes.
looking for a gift, question, teen questions, marriage
Yeah.
questions, self questions. They have lots of journals about that. I love that. So I think those are great ways to create more connection.
Yes.
And even if you're volunteering in a soup kitchen and you don't know what to ask people, sometimes, asking, what's your favorite food or what's your favorite memory, it can stir things up for people, but it also can say, you matter to me.
Mhm.
You're important to me. I want to hear about you and what makes you you in your life. I try to teach my kids this, like, be curious about yourself. And that gives you curiosity about other people. I love to find out. I have a keen curiosity about other people's stories. And some people don't, right? They're like, I don't really care. So those questions could be helpful to be like, you know what? These are some fun, lighthearted
Yeah.
questions. Go with those. Make it fun.
Yep. And don't assume even your spouse that you know the answer to their questions. Even after 10 years, those things can change. So, so I want to pivot real quick and talk a little bit about kids here. We have a few minutes left in the show because every kid should be happy around the holidays, right, Kristen? They should love Christmas.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit. What is how do we maybe address children this time of year that are maybe struggling through some things? I mean, what's maybe some do's and don'ts for parents or grandparents?
Yeah. Okay. The first don't is be like, you should be happy. I mean, and I did this, so I'm going to be guilty, is when we use Santa to be like, well, Santa's coming. Santa's coming. I did that a lot. And I really look back and I'm like, wow, I really try to kind of get my kid to do what I wanted and used Santa as a way to kind of change the behavior.
Well,
And I was like, right or
Charlie the elf at our house is changing
okay, yeah,
every
the
single day.
eyes and ears. I think the main thing for kids is tolerating their emotions, being okay with whatever they feel. And I'm not saying tolerating, them taking things out on you. I'm saying tolerating that they may have a lot of different feelings, especially if you have a child that's lost somebody in their life, whether it's a pet, a parent, a grandparent, a loved one, a friend. Hold all the space for them to not be okay and to ask them, what are you feeling? Oh, that makes sense. Validate what they're feeling and know that it's hard to access joy when you're in so much pain. And if if we can teach people to tolerate listening to people's pain and offering that empathy, I think it changes kids feeling safe and their nervous system to be open and honest about how they're feeling and not go out there and self-medicate that shame that there's something wrong with them, that they're not feeling all this joy, to normalize that it makes sense that they might not feel joy and it's okay to do whatever they need to do. And you're there if you want, they need to talk to somebody, and then offer that space and grace, to Bonnie's point, of allowing them to be however they are.
Yeah.
And if I consistently have to do my own work to tolerate my own kids and how they show up, if they're not, everything, and they open a gift and you're like, well, I spent hours looking for that gift. Well, you're not appreciative. You're not grateful. That's my own stuff coming through. If they don't like something, it's okay. It's okay that they don't like it, but we don't give people permission to not like something. Now, they don't have to be rude about it, but I think having grace and gratefulness and gratitude is another thing to teach kids while they're in grief, is also going around saying, what's one thing we're grateful for this holiday season? And then giving. I think giving, seeing your kids give, is a great blessing and gift as well.
I love it. All right. As we wrap up here, what are 2 to 3 tips that you can give us if we're at a holiday gathering on Christmas Day and like we're just not in a great spot? If maybe we're at our in-laws and we don't like them, it's not true in my life. That's an example. If you're at a company party and it just sucks, what can you tell us to do in that moment?
That's what I tell my girls. I said, first of all, breathe. Take a deep breath, center yourself. Second of all, it's really acknowledging that, right now in this moment, I don't really want to be here. And sometimes we need to give ourselves permission to go in another room, take a break, and just kind of recenter and reset. And if you need to set a boundary, set a boundary. Say, you know what, let's put a pin in that topic because I can see it's creating a lot of discord. And maybe let's talk about that at another time. And you can switch the subject to something like, what's your favorite Christmas memory? Or what's your favorite holiday memory? Or tell me what is your one thing that you wish your younger self knew. I mean, I'm making these questions up, but switch gears. And the third thing is, it's okay to not be okay. And I'm going to say it again, to have your feelings. If you need to take a moment and you have a grief burst, let that grief burst out, or go to the bathroom and give yourself that permission to let it out. And then if you need to go, it's okay to say, you know what, thank you so much. I'm having a really hard time. I kind of need to take a break. And then if you're really struggling, 988, that is a number that's available 24/7. You can text or call. If you're feeling really alone, you're feeling like, you don't know how you can go on, please call 988. Please, they're there. They're trained clinicians on the other end of the line. You matter, you're important, you're loved, and you're enough. But that shame wants to take you down a dark path. Please reach out and know that it's okay to reach out, and someone's on the other line to support you and walk you through this.
And they are available 24/7, 365, including Christmas Day. So do not hesitate to use that number. Kristen, this has been incredible advice. I'm excited about the holidays, but I also have some mixed emotions about it. And now I know how to better handle them. So thank you so much. I will just also quickly say, Bonnie asked us, what is our favorite Christmas song? So let's end on that note. No pun intended. Kristen, what's your favorite Christmas song?
Mary, Did You Know? I love Mary, Did You Know? It gets me every time, the Hallelujah chorus, but those are my 2 faves.
I've got to tell you, Hank Jenson, who is my now 7-year-old after last weekend, we call him Buddy the Elf because he's always happy. He's obsessed with Celine Dion's Mary, Did You Know right now and can sing every word of it. It just cracks me up. I will say I'm a big Josh Groban Christmas album fan. Julie Jenson doesn't care for that, so we've been listening to Celine Dion. I will say Celine Dion and John Legend do a version of Hallelujah. That's phenomenal. So that's kind of my thing right now. So Kristen, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Thanks for all that you guys do. Thanks everyone for chiming in and tuning in today. We had great audience participation. I love this. Take some of this spirit and go enjoy the holiday season and be present in the moment. And we'll see you back here in 2024. But in the meantime, Kristen, thanks a million.
Thank you.
All right. We'll see you next month for another edition of Mental Health Monday.
Happy holidays. Merry Christmas.
Awesome. Look at that.